Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another episode of Crossing Swords. I'm Andrew.
And I'm gonna be helpful this weekend.
Helpful?
But not like in a dwarfy way, just because I'm short.
I've never heard of a helpful dwarf.
No, you're right, they're normally dicks.
Yeah.
I was just thinking
they're called things like grumpy, dickhead.
I just thought one of Snow White's might have been called helpful. She's got a lot.
I wouldn't say Snow White's helpful.
No.
Nor her dwarfs.
I don't really know.
Although Doc is sort of handy, he's a doctor, he's got a degree.
What is he a doctor? We just sort of assume he's a... Where do you get a doctorate from?
Medical school.
Were doctorates even a thing back then?
Of course they were.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have let a little dwarf in, would they?
I mean, you can't claim to be a doctor when you're not, just like Dr. Dre.
I disagree. I think in my dating profile suggests that you absolutely claim to be a doctor when you're not a doctor.
You go tell Dr. Dre that.
But before we get to some confrontations with Dr. Dre...
If man say him a ting.
And give out. Well, that's an excellent starting point. Ghetto life advice. But let us give you some advice. We're going to give some advice and our opinions on some
Don't trust the Pope.
On some questions that have been asked.
Yes, so consider us for this week your Agony Aunts.
Or uncles.
No.
Or agony people. Because we're very gender inclusive.
No, we're not. Agony Aunts.
Nope, fine, fuck them all. So, where to begin?
Start with some questions, I think.
Sure.
Which one of us is going first? Whose idea was this, first of all? That normally decides it.
Wow.
Wow! I've decided to lean into it and I'm going to claim credit wherever I can.
Wow. Oh, fine, you go first, you know.
Whose idea was it then, if I'm going
You're
first?
going to make me say it?
I am.
You're going to make me say it?
I am.
It was your idea.
How did that taste coming out of your mouth?
Bitter.
I bet. Right, well, moving swiftly on. We've had some questions, or there's been questions.
Questions have been asked, we're going to answer them.
Yeah. So the first one, I was flattered when an old friend invited me to stay for a few weeks. She'd never invited me before, but from the minute I arrived, she announced she was going to hospital for an operation, and she left me caring for her husband. Not only did I end up cooking and caring for the man, but I had to keep taking him to the hospital to see her, and he was reluctant to even give me any petrol money. He was grumpy and once shouted at me for getting his medication wrong, but I'm now back home and she hasn't even sent me a thank you note. I feel completely used. Can our friendship survive this? I'm on my own and have enough problems to deal with.
Well, first of all...
What a mug.
Would you want it to survive that?
I would say personally no.
No, I mean, how... Let's analyse this from a really objective standpoint. How attractive is the husband?
It didn't say.
I mean, if...
I'm guessing if she had to care for him, he's probably a bit, you know...
What, but if he's like Brad Pitt-esque?
Yeah, but no one wants to fuck Brad Pitt if he's in a wheelchair.
I still would.
Interesting.
I still would.
Fair play. I don't know if I would.
That puts you off the wheelchair, does it for you?
Possibly. He'd have to have a really good personality if he didn't.
Not a really big dick.
Yeah, but it's not going to work if he's in a wheelchair.
No, why are you making the assumption that people in wheelchairs don't work and dick?
Quite a few don't.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, yeah, fair enough, I'm making assumptions, but...
That aside, anyway, but like, that's our, like, obligatory, let's talk about which guys we'd fuck.
It comes up far too much, doesn't
males
it?
we'd fornicate with.
Comes up far too often, really.
I mean, yeah, ultimately, obviously, we'll expand on it, but I think my ultimate advice is you don't want that friendship to survive.
I'd send her a bill.
I'd send her a bill.
I mean, I just can't imagine doing that to someone either, like to actually invite them to your home under a pretense of just coming round to visit, to actually lumber them with caring for your husband.
Yeah, and I have a personal thing
home,
who has about people who don't offer for like petrol money and stuff.
Yeah.
I won't necessarily always take it if people offer it.
But you like
But the idea of offering is sometimes enough.
Well, it's the same as if you go on a date, isn't it?
I mean, well, it's like there in this situation. I don't want to be taken, but I'm taking him to see his possibly sick wife. I'm not gonna charge him petrol money if he offers. But if he doesn't offer and just works on the assumption that I'm his fucking taxi,
well,
I'm going
to be honest, they've worked on the assumption that she's a carer, taxi, and fucking piggy
And
bank.
what's worse about this is that they've taken time off. Like, they've had time off work.
Yeah.
And they've used it to, under the guise of going to see a friend, and they've used it to take care of their friend's partner.
Personally, I'd bin them off, and I'd fucking have some serious... I mean, I can't believe she never had a go at them, personally.
Here's the thing, I think you can go down two routes with this, for me, given that I'm a very petty person. Go down the really petty route, bill them for everything, bill them for your time.
Yeah, for the petrol.
Bill them for the petrol. And also, but make sure in the bill to deduct living fees. So like, you know, if you've stayed in their house and you've eaten their food, take that off the bill, but still make sure that there's money on at the end that they owe you.
Yeah.
And show that in the bill, show you working out, so you can be like, you know, I admit I stayed with you, you know, you gave me a roof, you gave me some food, but you still owe me money.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'm guessing they didn't have 3 weeks worth of food in the house, do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know, that's...
I'd imagine she was buying the shopping as well.
Or you can just, you know, be really, really honest, send like a letter or something, get it all out and just be like, look, you're a cunt.
Yeah.
You know, that was really uncool to use our friendship like that. Your husband's a cunt.
You're a cunt.
You're a cunt. And you both deserve each other.
Oh, absolutely.
You're horrible cunts.
I mean, personally, I'd have walked out and left the fucker to look after himself.
Yeah.
I'd have been like, there is no effing way I'm staying here to care for your husband while you're in hospital.
No, what I'd have done is I'd have once she was sort of like awake and with it from the
I
general
wouldn't have even let her go to hospital.
No. I'd have gone to the hospital once, because once I'd clocked what was happening, as soon as she's awake and with it, I'd go and sit with her and say, look, I've drawn up a number of, I've got a number of contacts here for local care companies. You best get in contact with one of them to come and sort your husband
out. See, no, the
out.
thing is, you're being far too nice for me. Like, for me, she's saying like the minute she walked in, she found out this woman's going to have an operation. I'm walking straight out the door.
Bye, good luck with it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm sorry.
I'm the human equivalent.
It would have been different if from the start they said, look, I'm having an operation, is there any chance you could come and help look after my husband so I can recover and whatever? Very different situation. To invite someone over to stay for 3 weeks and then when they walk through the door, oh, by the way, I'm having an operation. That's not on, so no, I'd have walked straight out.
No, and I've got to be honest, but I'm the human equivalent of, you know, as per my last email, that really passive aggressive, I'm gonna mug you off, but I'm not gonna do it angrily or aggressively. It's gonna be really, really.
There's nothing aggressive about walking out the room.
Aggression.
I'll just walk out.
Yeah, you're quite blunt in that respect.
I'd have just been like, oh.
I want to make more of a display. I'm quite dramatic as well. I want to make more of a display.
I'd have been like, good luck with your operation. You're never seeing me again, and that'd have been it.
So yeah. I think the ultimate message is here.
Don't be a dick.
We don't care for people like that.
No.
And
don't take advantage of
friends. If there's anyone in
friends.
your life, doesn't matter what connection you have to them, they're not worth having in your life.
No, if they're using you in any way.
Because even if they've gone through a bad spell, and they used you, and it wasn't a good place for them, and they weren't their usual selves, whatever they're taking it. Which you can understand if she's got an ill husband and she's herself now fallen ill, you can sort of understand being in that place, but to then not retrospectively be able to look back and see what you've done and have the decency to apologise.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the telling sign. All that other stuff is bad and whatever, but like I said, there's a certain amount you can excuse it, almost. Not entirely, but almost.
I've got to say, I wouldn't care if
action.
she was having cancer removed. There's a way to go about. If it was something so bad, like you're saying that it was something understandable, then logically you would think, oh, if I tell this person this is what I've got wrong with me, is there any chance you can come and look after my husband while it's being sorted out? Most reasonable people, I'd like to think, would go, of course I will.
I think we all make mistakes, sometimes not as horrible as that, but you know, the decent thing is to look back and say, do you know what, I made a mistake. That's the really telling part of the story. That person would be dead to me.
If you did that to me, I don't care what you got wrong with you.
Well, then I won't tell you what's coming up in the next couple of weeks. But you're definitely still coming around next week, right?
No.
You're definitely still good to come around and stay.
No.
I really need you here.
I couldn't
I
care.
can't
I'm not
afford
looking after your parents.
I can't afford a carer. Not that that's relevant, because you won't be looking after anyone. Definitely
And
not.
I'm not looking after your cat.
You would though.
I've just watched him downstairs. He mugged you off by that door.
He mugged me off a lot. I do act as like his employee.
So quite frankly, no. Anyway, shall we move on to another question?
Shall we? Should we mix it up? Shall we do...
You do one now.
I'll
if you
do
like.
one now. I'm going to do a bit of a serious... I mean, that was quite serious, but I'll also do a serious one. My partner finds fault in everything I do. It's gotten to the point that I feel nervous to do absolutely anything around the house at home. What should I do? Tough one, this.
See, I'm now going to come at it again from a sort of petty aspect. I'd stop doing anything then. I'd let the house turn into a shithole. I bet you she's the sort of woman like she irons her husband's clothes every day, probably even irons his socks. I'd stop doing all of it and then let him look after himself. When he starts complaining that the house is a shithole, I'd be like, well, maybe if you want someone who's better at it, fucking pay for it. Done.
Yeah, no.
But also, I think, in terms of the critical aspect, your partner must not think a lot of you to constantly criticise you.
I know, well that's what I was...
It's a very controlling thing to do. If you
That's
constantly
my
put
thing,
your partner down, you're doing it because what you don't... It's a bit like when someone bullies you, it's that old sort of adage that they're doing it to keep the eyes off of them. That there's something about them they're insecure about, that if they don't put people down, that's going to be seen in them.
Yeah.
So I think it's the same with partners. I think if you're with someone who constantly undermines you, constantly tells you everything you do is wrong, regardless of what it is,
well, I think
you shouldn't be with them.
That's my advice, is that you shouldn't be treating the symptoms of this. You need to get to the underlying cause.
Yeah.
You need to sit down and have that conversation, and it's not going to be one conversation, it's going to be many, and they're going to be tough, they're going to be stubborn, they're going to be resistant, and they're going to try and throw you off the scent. But persist, really keep digging, and don't accept the surface answers. Find out why it is that they're finding fault in you. Is it something with them? Is it something that you've done before that gives them trust issues? Well, you know, there's something there that you need to get to the bottom of.
I think I disagree with you. I think if you're with someone who's highly critical of you constantly, and it's about everything, and I've seen examples of it in my life of people around me, none of those relationships end up.
To be fair, you're very
out.
easy to criticise.
But of all those sort of relationships I've seen, where there's one person who's constantly put down, it just doesn't work.
Well, no, well, here's it, because
And the thing
what I'm
is,
saying though, you persist and find that reason almost for your own closure, because
You're not gonna find
ultimately
that reason,
9 times out of 10, either, well, this is what I was going to say, either you persist, and you reach a point where you're not going to get any further. In which case you accept you're not going to get any further, and if you can't address the issue that's underlying, you leave. Or you find the issue, and 9 times out of 10 when you find that issue, you'll find it's something you can't work through, and you leave. So ultimately, what I'm saying is, leave, do some hard work, and then leave.
See, for me, what I'm saying is I'd have at least just one conversation, actually, just one, asking why they're treating me like that.
And I'm the dramatic one.
And then I
You're throwing down like ultimatums and just...
No, but I've seen it far too often that people are put down by their partners. And here's part of the knock on of that is, you might think nothing of it and whatever, but if that goes on for more than, I would say, well, at all really, but for more than sort of like 6 or 7 months, trying to put a realistic spin on it, anything more than that, a year and up, definitely, it has really long-term lasting effects. Absolutely. And these people end up riddled all
with
you think
insecurities.
is, exactly, all you think is there must be something wrong with me.
And just the lowest self-esteem.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for me...
And no one should be like that.
Unless you have that conversation with the person and they instantly go, oh my God, I didn't realise, and instantly changes.
Well, but see, I'm having that thing because people do, and I know people who operate like this, where they'll brush you off. You have the conversation and they go, you're being stupid and whatever, but actually what happens is you've planted that seed, they go away, they think about it, and actually I've had people where I've done that, I've planted the seed, they've brushed me off, and you're like, oh, what, fucking prick, like, didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But then actually a couple of days later they've come back and they've cornered me and said, actually, do you know what, I did think about what you said.
Yeah.
And we sort of talk about it, but it takes them that processing time. So I'm willing to give them that processing time.
Yeah, I think I would just about. It depends how long it's been going on for, in my opinion. If it's been going on medium to long term, then just bin them.
Walk out.
It's not going to change.
Dump their ass.
If you've been with someone for 5 to 10 years or longer, and all they've ever done is put you down, why?
For sure, 5 to 10 years, definitely.
Because also the question you need to ask yourself is, if they think that little of you, which they must do because they're constantly putting you down, why are they with you?
And that's the question you have to keep asking that, and I've seen it time and time again when people do keep putting people down. You do ask the question, you don't ask the question what's wrong with that person, you ask the question of why are you with them? If they are so poor, they're so beneath you, they can't do anything right, you're having to constantly take care of them and you don't like it. Well, if you don't like it and you're having to do it all, and they're not going to improve because they're useless, why are you with them?
But I think fundamentally they do it to make themselves feel better.
Yeah, they do it to keep them in check. It's almost like, you know, as long as they're feeling low, they're not going to rise above themselves.
It's a control thing.
Yeah, I'm the one in charge. And they're never going to rise up while they feel down.
And I've seen it, like I said, in people I've seen over the years, and it never ends well.
Yeah, there's lots of red flags. If someone finds fault in what you do, but is able to offer like constructive criticism, different. If they just point out a couple of annoying habits, different. But if they genuinely keep finding fault, definite red flag moment. Definite red flag moment.
Yeah, and you should be looking to leave them.
And I'm not saying, you're saying, I'm not saying you should definitely leave them, but be alert, be aware that this is a potentially bad
If it was short term, so like say my partner came to me tomorrow and said, babe, like you've been quite critical recently, like what have I been doing because it wasn't like this before? Depending on my reaction to that, if I've reacted aggressively to that and more critical, then she should bin me off. But if I went, fuck, I didn't even realise, you know. But if it was going on for long term, I would say to my partner she should leave me. If that's how I was being towards her.
That's fair. It's a definite red flags. Definitely clock that.
Right, a slightly more light-hearted one next. For the past year I've been visiting a man for piano lessons, but what actually happens is we just have sex. I honestly don't know how it all started, but I now pay him £20 every other Thursday for sex in his music room. After an hour I put on my clothes and I leave. I'm a married woman and I feel equally thrilled and guilty about this. Moments after leaving the house I feel terrible, but then I can't wait to go there again. What's going on?
There's a litany of issues with
You're
this.
a slag, first of all.
Well, no, first of all, a £20 hooker, I mean, that is disgusting.
Well, the thing is, she's essentially...
But where can I find that?
Like, genuinely, she's got herself into a situation where she's obviously ended up having a fling with her piano teacher, still paid him after the first time they shanked. Look, that's the bit that really bugs me.
So I can imagine that if I were to go for piano lessons or whatever lesson, and I ended up having sex with my teacher, when they then asked for the money, I'd very much be like, well, no, you got paid with this magnificent schlong.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be pay them on top of that. Because otherwise,
I could picture like maybe they had a conversation where he was like, well, I could have put someone else in this time, and you've just seduced me.
But I do that a lot. I do seduce people a lot.
But if it's got to a point where it's happening every time, I'd like to think eventually, if I was the man, I'd be like, I don't want your money.
It's a really efficient way of prostitution, though. Just like a regular weekly slot or bi-weekly slot, fortnightly slot. Yeah. It's really, really efficient.
It's just
prostitution.
Personally, stop fucking the guy.
No, first of all, look, there's one clear thing that we're overlooking here. She's married.
Yeah, she's a slag.
No sex.
Shouldn't be. If you're not happy with your husband, leave him.
Or even more than that, I would say, ultimately accept that it's likely to lead to your relationship ending. But broach the subject and say, look, I'm starting to have these sexual fantasies of like having an affair. It's just the thrill of.
No, but the thing is, she's lying to him still. Then.
Yeah, but just start it. Just open that dialogue, and maybe there's a chance that he'll go, do you know what? Yeah, I want to satisfy you. Let's have an open relationship.
No, because then for me, that then gets to a point where you've now turned it into that husband's fault. It must be his fault.
I don't see how.
With what you just said.
What have I just said?
By her going to him, he has to now satisfy her because she's too big a slag to keep it in her trousers.
No, not at all. either she says, I'm having these fantasies, and he goes, well, that's weird, don't have them. Or he goes, yeah, okay, let's have an open relationship.
Yeah, but you're asking her to continue lying to him.
Only short term. Then you introduce the thing. And
so alright, so let's follow your path slightly further. So she's had a conversation with him, I'm feeling extra randy, I'm having lots of fantasies about fucking other men.
Yeah.
I need you to start satisfying me more.
No, see, you're adding that. I never said you need to start satisfying.
No, but you said so he starts satisfying her.
No, I never, no.
Yes, you did!
No.
You said the words!
Okay, well, let's say that I did.
Alright, so fine. So he
so
starts fulfilling her fantasies, alright?
he can start fulfilling her fantasies.
He starts banging her daily, nightly, and ever so rightly.
Well, no, not even that.
A few months.
An open relationship.
No, but like.
That's the satisfaction. That's the fantasy.
So you're saying just abandon the whole marriage essentially and become an open relationship?
Either have an open relationship or get divorced.
That's such a weird response.
I'm adding another option.
No,
that's what I'm doing.
You're basically saying that this guy should either leave her or accept that she's going to want to fuck other men for the rest of his life.
Is that not the situation he's faced with though?
Just bin her off.
Yeah, leave her. Bin her off or accept it.
But the thing is, you're not even confronting the fact she's cheated on him. You're telling her to basically go to him and say, I want an open relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I'm keeping a bit.
She should go and tell her husband what happened, let him beat the shit out of her, beat the shit out of the piano teacher, and then kick her out of the house. Alright, don't beat her up, beat up the piano teacher.
Right.
I don't condone
domestic violence is not okay, but GBH, absolutely fine.
Yeah, go break the cunt's legs. And I'd smash his piano.
Well, surely the cruelest thing to do is to break his fingers.
Well, I'd do that as well.
Or am I being quite precise and quite harsh?
I mean, I'm just thinking I'm putting his head again and again onto the piano.
See, we're having very different responses going into this room with him. You're being like quite animalistic and just letting all your rage out, whereas I'm being quite calculated.
You're going for the Gerard Butler in law-abiding citizen.
I'm going straight, just one finger, just the little finger. It's like, can't play sevenths now, bitch. Bang. Down to fifths. Bang. One note.
The thing is, I'd more likely get away with my crime than you would yours.
Yeah, because mine was premeditated.
I know a story my dad told me years ago about one of his mates walked in on his wife fucking another man on their living room floor. He went out to the kitchen, filled up the kettle, boiled the kettle, and then walked in and poured it all over him. And the judge said to him during his court case,
"You were under emotional duress or something."
No. Had you walked in and the kettle was boiled and you'd picked it up and poured it on them, you'd have walked out today with less. You know, you wouldn't have gone to jail.
Sentence.
You'd have been prosecuted, obviously, but we could have put it as a crime of passion. But because you went out to the kitchen, boiled the kettle, waited for it, you premeditated, decided what you were going to do. But if he said, like, if you'd have walked in, beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, the idea is that you have time to reconsider your
actions.
actions.
So my reaction to it, going in there and breaking his piano and every bone in his body in the moment, is most likely to get a lighter sentence than you torturing the guy.
Mine leaves a bigger mental impact on him.
Absolutely, mate. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm just saying I'm more likely to get away with mine than yours.
By the way, we don't condone that here on Crossing Swords. Don't do that. Just leave her.
And beat the guy up.
And you can file for everything because she's cheating on you. So
yeah, I'd still beat him up though.
Yes,
you're going to get away with it. So why not? You might as well enjoy it.
You're not going to get away with it. Also, in this
situation, you're not going to get away with it.
Situation with your dad, what will you do?
My dad? Well, it wasn't my dad who poured the boiling water on it.
Especially with your dad's story.
Yeah.
The judge has said, if you had. The judge has proposed a hypothetical, which is all well and good, but it's like, well, you can say that in retrospect, you can say, well, this is worse, but actually, unless you were actually judging for it, unless there was a parallel universe running where the kettle was boiled who did it, you can't possibly know. The judge can say that, but let's be honest, why wouldn't he say that?
No, because I think that's a genuine thing, that if it's a crime of passion and anger in the moment, you're going to have a more lenient reaction than if you premeditatedly punish them.
I would just say you're not going to get away with it.
Well, let me rephrase it then. You're going to get away with it to a far less degree.
We will just not do it. And then there's no sentencing, there's no prosecution.
No, I'm all for people beating the shit out of someone who's shagged their missus.
But it's her. He might not have even...
Yeah, but you can't hit a woman.
The
You
piano
can't hit
teacher
a
might not
woman.
even know she was mad. She might have taken her ring off and been like, this might get in the way of my piano playing.
Oh,
and taken
fuck
the ring off.
off.
No, but you don't know.
You don't know that is
No,
what
I don't know. You don't know.
No, but you're now making shit up to
We're now
disprove
making
what I'm saying.
hypotheticals, which proves that it's all bullshit. Leave her, that's the...
You're not James Corden, don't fling your pen across the room.
So sorry, that was reserved for him.
That's his move and you know it.
Didn't realise he had a move.
But fundamentally, that man should have beaten the shit out of the piano teacher and destroyed his piano.
Why not just burn the house down?
Well, no, because now you're just getting silly.
I'm getting silly. You're going to prison and I'm getting silly.
I'm not going to prison,
Oh,
though.
absolutely.
Alright, guys,
Absolutely.
I want someone to let us know, am I going to prison for beating the
If we
shit
have
out of
any
the guy?
lawyers listening, can you just let us know if he goes in and absolutely fucking levers this guy?
The thing is though, you're going in, you're breaking his fingers and causing grievous
I said,
bodily
if I
harm.
were to do it, that's how I do it. But I'm not going in. I'm just leaving it.
Right, 20 years down the line, Jake, you've been married 15, 18 years,
That's
right?
a patient woman.
You got 2 kids, you know, you think you're fully
And they're both fine.
I mean, stupidly you're believing you're sexually satisfying your wife. She comes to you and says she's been sleeping with her piano teacher. You're telling me your reactions like...
Shall I tell you what would really annoy me the most if she come and said, I'm staying with my piano teacher, I'd be like, and we're still paying him? Money's still going to that cunt?
I'd be going to his house and
That would
breaking his
hurt me
legs.
more than the actual sex.
Really?
Very brutal.
Well, let me throw a hypothetical at you then. What is worse? So, right, so say you had a missus, been together a while,
Yeah.
you found out, or you have a choice. Either she's spent months talking to some guy online they haven't met, but they text, they talk on the phone, there's an emotional connection there.
Sure.
He knows her inside and out, pardon the
Pun,
pun.
sure.
You know, there's a relationship there. Or she went out for a night out with her girlfriends, ran into a guy, ended up banging him behind the bins in an alleyway. You know, there was a night of him pounding her senseless, pounding her to dust. She loved it. What one would you choose if you had to?
Well, I don't want to choose.
No, but...
And look, the truth is, I can't, because until I'm in that situation, I don't know how I'd react. I'd like to think I'd
No,
be
but in your
calm
opinion, what's
whenever
worse, the emotional connection or the physical one?
Depends what I genuinely, if I genuinely sit and assess my relationship, what do I genuinely think I'm offering? Do I genuinely think I can offer an emotional connection?
Or the physical one?
I feel like...
In an ideal world, you should have both.
You should, but if I feel like I'm neglected and I'm not listening to her,
Then you could
then
forgive
fair enough, I can certainly
the
forgive it.
emotion. But the thing is, I feel like with the emotional one, it's the precursor to the physical one.
Possibly.
Um,
Anyway, the advice is leave him. Let's
leave her?
I'm gonna...
Why is she leaving the husband? She's the one cheating!
Because she should, the second she knew she wasn't, you know, she was...
Oh, shouldn't have opened her legs to the piano teacher.
No, quite. Anyway, divorce. That's the advice. So...
We were worried we weren't going to have
I'm going to go
enough
into...
questions for
I'm
this.
going to go into another one.
Guys, by the way, let me know in the comments what you think about the question I just put to Jake. What's worse, the emotional connection or the physical one?
But definitely let us know whether Big's going to prison.
Yes,
100%
and also let me know
know.
whether I go to prison for beating the shit out of the piano teacher if I'm the husband.
Okay, here's one. Recently my best friend has started to ignore me. Whenever I bring it up, they just say, you're just being silly. It's really starting to annoy me. What should I do?
Could you repeat the question?
I mean...
Sorry, that was really unprofessional. I was scrolling through my questions and I just completely
No, it's
missed
fine,
what you
because
said.
it was your idea. You don't have to put the work in. It's fine. You just have
I'm
to
sorry,
turn up.
I bring everything to the table, Jake. I'm sorry.
Everything but yourself, who's apparently absent from these sessions.
Alright, please let me know what the question was.
Recently, my best friend
I'm
has
engaging.
started to ignore me.
Okay.
Whenever I bring it up, they just brush it off as me being silly. It's really starting to piss me off. What should I do?
I think you need to try and have the conversation again. If they try brushing you off, you need to insist and say, look, if we don't have this conversation, we're not going to have a friendship because it is worrying me, I'm concerned about it, and it's important to me.
I'm gonna throw it back slightly to something we said in an episode when we talked about when comedy goes too far, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Castbox, YouTube. Check them out.
Are we on Stitcher?
Yeah.
Since when?
Is that the one we're not on?
I don't think we're on Stitcher.
Right, scratch that. But the others, find it. I think you need to go to them and say, do you know what, you don't get to, I might be silly, but you don't get to tell me how I feel.
No.
I tell you how I feel, and that's the truth, because if that's how I feel, that's how I feel. And you say, so we need to address it. And even if we come to the conclusion, you can try and convince me that I am being silly, but you have to try and convince me. We have to have this conversation, because this is how I feel. I'm
feeling insecure about it. We need to talk about it. You have to just say. You can't just brush me off. You need to appreciate how I'm feeling.
This is how I feel, and you don't get to tell me how I feel, or whether I'm right or wrong to be feeling that.
Yeah.
You have to accept that is how I feel, and if they're not happy with that, then they're not a best friend worth having.
No, absolutely.
Sorted. We breezed through that one much quicker. No violence involved at all.
No.
Unless you want to beat him up, because apparently you can do that and you won't go to prison.
No, that is not what I said. What I'm saying is, if it's a crime of passion, the judge will be more lenient than if it's a
still go to prison.
No, but that's not guaranteed.
Anyway.
You have no proof that I'm going to prison.
Anyway, would you like to offer some questions, some advice? Or shall I offer my last one?
You offer your last one.
Okay. I really like this girl at work.
Okay.
Whenever we talk and we occasionally joke about being together, she seems really into it.
Yeah.
However, I hear from colleagues and friends that she actually has a boyfriend. My question is, should I send her a picture of my penis? I'm not even making that up. That's a genuine question. Let's answer the question. Yeah, go for it. Women love dick pics. Unsolicited dick pics are like their thing. They can't get enough of them.
Oh, it's complicated.
It's
more complicated than it sounds. First of all, because, do you know what? Flat out, I'm going to say no, stay away from the girl. And the reason I say that is because she has a boyfriend. She's welcoming the attention / advances.
The thing is, though, does she have a boyfriend? It's all hearsay. You hear from colleagues and friends. Maybe she broke up with the boyfriend.
Well, then that's a conversation that needs to be had. No, don't start off with a dick pic, because that's just going to put her off.
I mean, personally, when you change numbers and you do like a drop call to get the phone, I just send a dick pic. That's sort of my go-to.
That explains why you don't change your number. But no, I would have the conversation with her and say, look, I heard you have a boyfriend, do you? Because I just don't think that needs to be as awkward a situation as it is. If she then says yes, then I would be.
You don't need to be. Must be really casual about it, like be really sly and be like, how's your boyfriend doing?
Yeah. Just
work on the assumption that you both know that she has a boyfriend.
Yeah, and if she goes, oh yeah, he's fine, then you know.
Yeah, then
it's fine, yeah, you can do it that way.
First of all, find out if she's got a boyfriend.
If she has, bin her off, because fundamentally she's welcoming your advances, and
encourage them by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I don't believe if she's doing that in a relationship with someone else, she'd be more willing to do it to you.
Yeah.
And I have,
absolutely.
And I've had experience in that sort of scenario, not necessarily with a work colleague, but where
you like someone.
Like me and my current partner, she was with someone, and we deliberately didn't let it go anywhere because that's not how we wanted to start off together, and so we waited until she was single and then dated and did things the right way. So no, I think if that's the case, if I was him, find out if she has a boyfriend. If she does,
but yeah, absolutely, if she does, stay away, because
but even if it's alright, so you find out she doesn't have a boyfriend, don't start off with a dick pic.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I say it, actually, just please.
Don't send her a dick pic.
No one likes a dick pic unless someone's asked you for a dick pic.
Yeah.
Even if you're like married, you're still going to get pissed off if your husband sends you a dick pic.
I mean,
you'll get more pissed off if your wife sends you a dick pic.
It's just such an awkward situation. I mean, when I was a teenager, there was a girl I don't even remember if I was dating her at the time, but there was flirting going on.
Sure.
And I was on holiday, and to this day, I don't know why I did it. I sent a dick pic, and I came back from my holiday and found out she passed it around the majority of her school, and I was absolutely mortified. Now, luckily, only a handful of girls actually knew who the dick belonged to. But yeah, it was just so embarrassing. The only thing that was redeeming about the whole situation is I did overhear a conversation between two girls I didn't know saying, "Did you see that picture of that dick going around the school?" And the other went, "Yeah, it didn't look bad." And I was like, "Get in!"
Did you do that audibly behind them as well? Like, get in!
No, I was just like, "Yes."
Ladies.
Now, unless some other poor sod at the same time. Do you know what I mean? But no.
Well, we both know several people who have had dick pics between us and together. We both know a number of people who've had dick pics shared around. That's the danger of it.
Yeah.
Especially when.
And also, it's just not a classy thing to do.
Really not. No relationship has ever.
Like if it's a thing you and your partner do, you like sending pictures to each other. That's a completely different thing.
If you're out there listening, do you know of any relationships that ever started with a dick pic? Let us know, because I'd love to know, because I genuinely believe that no relationship has ever started with a dick pic.
Unless the girl's just really easy.
Yeah.
Or the guy. Or the guy.
Or the guy. Or the guy.
I reckon gay relationships have started with a dick pic.
I reckon no relationship has ever
started. I reckon a gay relationship has started with a dick pic. Men are horny bastards.
I think that's never a classy way to go.
No, but if it was too non-class... Oh, do you know what? Who knows? Maybe the Queen gets dick pics from Philip. Yeah.
This is my penis.
It's the one-eyed snake.
I imagine he has to get. That's really awkward. Because I imagine he has to get one of his servants, like help him send it through WhatsApp. Whatever, he doesn't quite know how it works. He's like, "Could you send this picture, young man? You're there. Do they have phones in your country?"
We know they have white screens.
Anyway, moving on.
Yes. Next question. This is actually one, I'm going to say it, a listener wrote in with, because I was quite happy that they did. And it was sort of a general question, they gave two, and the first one was, what happened to people caring for others and trying to help each other? We're all in the same boat and have to paddle up this massive stream which is called life. And we could all do and be better off with if everyone did actually help each other, and why and what has made people so selfish and greedy nowadays, and it's made this person hate people in general because of it.
I think people have always been selfish and greedy. I think everyone's goal has always been themselves.
I think they have, but I think, and it sort of ties in again to, not to plug another episode,
Brexit.
But no, not Brexit,
Brexit,
the convenience episode. I think people are just always in a rush, and when I'm going anywhere, I always allow myself shitloads more time than I need. As you know, and most of the time I show up here early, much to your dismay, because I don't like being stressed out when I'm going anywhere, and I'd far rather get somewhere half an hour early than half an hour late. And whenever I'm in the car, you just see people just rushing and pushing past people, and everyone's angry, and I think it just comes down to people don't give themselves enough time.
So I tell you what I think is a big driver in it, is the introduction of the internet. And I say this because suddenly everyone had a platform to speak, and suddenly people are sharing opinions that previously you wouldn't have necessarily known they had. They would share a video or a picture or something, and before you wouldn't have known that Dave next door was a fucking bigoted bastard, or that Steve on the other side wants to let immigrants come and live with him and fucking put up a foster home for them. You wouldn't have known that, whereas now you do, and it helps drive that.
I always knew Dave was dodgy.
It helps drive that divide between people, and it visualises the divide, and suddenly you can see things that don't, and so suddenly people are a little less willing to give anything.
I just think
it's not the reason, but I don't think that's helped.
No, but I think definitely generosity of spirit has disappeared from society.
But I can't remember ever there being a time where it really was prevalent. Prevalent.
I think just
I think we're looking at it and romanticising a time that we never really knew.
I think
people of that time would be saying the same thing and looking back at a time before then and romanticising it.
Because of the way I was brought up, I think I try to look at the positive in people in general. It's not always easy.
We've both met.
But I try to focus on...
You slept with one of them.
A random act of kindness. You see someone do something nice for someone else. And I think if... And it's a bit mushy, if we all just did a random act of kindness now and again, the world would be a much better place.
I think it also goes back to the thing that you've mentioned, I think empathy isn't a trait that everyone has.
No, it isn't.
And it should be.
Yeah, no, empathy is something that has been lost.
And it makes it hard for anyone that does have empathy to look around the world and see people.
Like, just an example, and this isn't to big myself up in the slightest, it's more to criticise other people.
Fucking hide yourself, bro.
There was a day I was doing filming for a media studies project when I was in school. And I was with some guys from school, and we were in Wallington High Street, actually. And the main crossing,
Sure.
There was an elderly gentleman who was like full on hunched over, couldn't look up properly, and I watched him for about 5 minutes, which sounds bad actually saying that, but he kept pressing.
I don't imagine you were actively watching it. It was sort of like you.
I just kept noticing.
Yeah. And that would have been cruel if you sat there observing.
And he kept pressing the pedestrian button to want to cross, and you could tell he wanted to go, but he kept
missing it almost,
or sort of chickening out a little bit. He couldn't bring himself to do it.
Yeah.
And so after watching him for a bit, I just went over to him and asked,
John Hand,
"Are you okay?" And he said, "I really need to cross the road, but I can't do it in time." He said, "I've stood here and listened to how long you have to cross, and I don't have long enough." And I said, "I'll tell you what, don't worry about it, let me just go grab a couple of the guys and we'll get you across the road." So we blocked the traffic, we obviously pressed the button first, and what really struck me about that moment I wasn't thinking, I'm doing this really lovely thing. What was bugging me was the people that were watching what we were doing.
What doing it?
No, but that were acting aggressively in reaction to it. So like the people waiting to drive past him, leaning on their horns and swearing, and you can see there's an older man, and more than anything, I did that not because I necessarily just thought it's a nice thing to do. I did it because I was like there for the grace of God. Do you know what I mean? One day that might be me, or I'd like to think if that was my granddad or my dad, someone would do that for them.
Yeah.
And I just it just comes down to treating others how you want to be treated. That's fundamental. But I would say there's a serious lack of, to answer the question, there's a serious lack of empathy in the world now, and I think maybe it has always been that way, I don't know.
I think it has.
I think maybe because when you're kids you only see the positive really, and maybe that's what it is.
I think kids generally are quite, young kids are quite empathetic, and then it gets trained out of them.
Yeah.
Because you know why? Because that's not, and I'll tell you why, and this is going to make me sound like such a liberal fucking hippie arsehole, and I'm well aware that I do one of these moments in like every episode now where I show my hippie side, but not the reason, because we live in a capitalist society and you don't flourish, and capitalism doesn't flourish through generosity, it flourishes through greed. So greed is trained into you, dominance is trained into you, those other nice traits are almost trained out of you because they don't get you anywhere, because they don't get the man who's paying your wages anywhere.
Yeah, maybe the truth is people are just self-serving. I think that's the...
But that's more of a philosophical ponderance than a piece of
But I hope that sort of answers the question, what we said.
Well, it gives our opinion on it.
Yeah. There was another question, and this person said, "So I have a friend that considers me their best friend, but I kind of just see them as an acquaintance and a bit of an annoyance. I do like them, and even with their flaws, but if I'm honest, I can't be asked to deal with them anymore, and the only real interest we have together is having a good old piss up every now and again. But I feel like they just call me when they want to talk and want something from me, and if I'm honest, I wouldn't give two shits if they weren't in my life anymore." The question I have basically is, do I deal with them? Do I put up with it because they say I'm their best friend and they think they're mine? or
are they just saying that to keep me interested?
Yeah. Are they just using me and saying that stuff so I don't confront them? What do I do? Do I confront them or not?
I think, personally, you confront them. Next time they come looking for something, you say, look, you just sort of be like, look, I'm done with this, man. I don't want... And even if you just sort of, without confronting them or asking them anything, you just lay your boundaries down. You say, look, man, I don't know what... Like, for me, I'm at a point in my life now where friendship is... It's you know, talking talking semi-regularly, even if you don't give a shit, even if you're too tired, you just have a little occasional chat. It's about meeting up to go to things that other than a piss up, to go to the cinema, to just hang out, like whatever, in the middle of the day. And you just lay down that and just say, look, man, and for those reasons, because that's where I'm at in my life with what I consider friendship, I'm done with this relationship. It either needs to grow with me, or it's getting left behind. As sad as that is, just sort of like lay it all on the line. And that way you're not confronting them, you're not attacking them, you're not blaming them, but you get the same end result. You're setting out your own boundaries and just saying either you're in it or you're out of it.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I can't really add much to that. I think life's too short. And normally if you feel you're being used by someone, I would say 90% of the time you probably are. There's going to be exceptions, obviously, but if that's your gut instinct that you feel that person's just using you and telling you you're their best friend to keep you around, then that is probably exactly what's happening. But you need to have that conversation to either open their eyes to it, because it could just be a benign thing that they're not aware of that they're doing it, but probably more likely they are aware of it, and just get rid of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think, so what I want to add to all of what we've said is we would like to do a segment fairly regularly within a podcast, not necessarily just an Agony Aunt one, but just answering your questions. It could be about anything, it could be for advice, it could be our opinion on something.
It could be fucking tech support, man.
Yeah, literally anything. We'd just love to hear more from
you
guys in general, and we'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to interact with you more through the podcast and one-to-one on social media.
I'm glad you said social media, like one-to-one, it might go around everyone's houses.
Well, you've been offering out handjobs and blowjobs for ages, so you're due a bit of one-on-one time.
The thing is, you say one-on-one, but I think I could get through it a lot quicker if it wasn't one-on-one.
If it wasn't group activity. Then you're requiring all those people to be okay with a group activity.
What I'm saying is, if they want their offered out hand jobs and blow jobs, they're going to have to be okay with it. Those are the conditions in which I'm offering it.
You did actually say you'd go around to each and every one of their homes and do it.
Yeah, well, I hope somebody flat share.
But yeah, so we just want to hear more from you guys. Keep sharing, keep liking, keep subscribing. Continue the conversation when we post it on Facebook and Twitter. Let us know what you think.
Seriously, I want to know, is Big going to prison?
Yeah, I want to know if I'm going to prison. And the other question I asked, which I can't remember.
Yeah, which we can definitely expect the listeners to remember.
Yeah.
Your serious lack of professionalism, which has been shown up today. You started off all high and mighty with your I'm the ideas man.
But the thing is, I can't do everything.
It's very quickly descended into
I can't do everything.
You're useless, you don't turn up. You turn up in body and just accept that this is enough.
Well.
And on that, you've seen the start of the split of the band.
But yeah, guys, as always,
thanks for making it this far. And
thanks for listening.
We'll speak to you real soon. Keep an eye out, watch this space.
Yeah, love you guys.
Should we give them a kiss?
Mwah.